The Praetorian Guard, Chapter 25, Into the Sigma Drift. John and the rest of Alpha Team stood in the mission briefing room, their expressions grim and focused as the details of the next phase of their operation unfolded. The air was thick with tension. This was it. The final push to bring down the pirates and sever the Glaber family's support once and for all. The room was dim, lit only by the holographic map of the Sigma Drift asteroid belt, the location of the pirate base they were preparing to infiltrate. Sarah stood at the head of the table, her eyes locked on the swirling asteroid field projected in front of her.
The Sigma Drift is a treacherous sector,
she began, her voice steady and authoritative.
It's filled with debris, asteroids, and other natural hazards. The pirates have fortified their base deep within this field, using the natural chaos of the region to shield themselves from detection. But thanks to the data we pulled from Callan and the captured nobles, we now know exactly where to strike.
John, standing beside Sarah, nodded as he examined the map.
What kind of defenses are we looking at?
Marta, who had been monitoring communications and scanning the area, spoke up, her fingers moving quickly over her tablet.
Based on the intercepted signals, the base is heavily guarded. Automated turrets, shield generators, and a fleet of pirate ships patrolling the area. They've prepared for an assault, but they don't know it's coming yet. We'll need to move fast, get in before they can react.
Sarah's expression hardened as she looked around the room at her team.
This is a high-risk operation. The pirates know they're vulnerable if we find them, and they'll fight with everything they've got to protect their base. Our mission is simple. We infiltrate the base, destroy their command center, and take out their leadership. Without their leaders, the pirates will fall apart, and the Glaber family will lose their most powerful ally.
John's eyes narrowed as he processed the information.
We'll need to neutralize those turrets and shield generators quickly if we want any chance of getting to the command center.
Mark, the weapons specialist, grinned as he leaned back in his chair.
Leave that to me, boss. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve that should make quick work of their defenses. A couple of well-placed charges, and those turrets won't know what hit them.
Sun, the team's quiet explosives expert, gave a slight nod of agreement, his hands already fiddling with the explosives he had been preparing for the mission.
We go in silent and fast. Hit them before they know we're there.
John looked at Sarah, his voice steady.
What's our plan for extraction once the base is down?
Sarah clicked a button on her console, zooming in on a potential escape route on the holographic map.
We'll be flying in with cloaked shuttles. Once we've completed the mission, we'll use the chaos of the asteroid field to evade pursuit and regroup with the fleet. The cruisers will be waiting outside the asteroid belt to engage any pirate ships that try to follow us.
John glanced at the rest of his team, each member poised and ready for what lay ahead. This was the kind of mission they had trained for, one that required precision, teamwork, and nerves of steel. They had already dismantled the traitors within Duke Arkin's court, but this was the final move, the blow that would bring the Glaber family's plans crashing down.
We're ready,
John said, his voice firm.
Let's end this.
As the team boarded their cloaked shuttle and prepared for launch, John found himself reflecting on the past few weeks. The bonds he had forged with Princess Lana, the way the team had come together to root out the traitors, it all led to this moment. He would see this mission through, not just for the Empire, but for the people he had come to care about. The shuttle lifted off silently, its cloaking systems engaged, and they made their way toward the Sigma Drift. The journey was tense but quiet, each member of the team mentally preparing for the battle to come. John sat near the front of the shuttle, his eyes focused on the view of the asteroid field ahead, while Lana's face lingered in his mind. He knew she trusted him, and that trust fueled his resolve. As the shuttle approached the Sigma Drift, the asteroid field loomed large on the horizon, a chaotic mess of spinning rocks and debris. The pirate base was hidden deep within the asteroid belt, its location known only to a select few. But now, John and his team had the advantage.
We're entering the field.
Marta's voice crackled over the comms, her hands flying over the controls.
Keep your eyes sharp. There's debris everywhere, and we don't want to trigger any of their sensors.
The shuttle maneuvered expertly through the field, weaving between asteroids and avoiding the larger debris. The pirates' defenses soon came into view. Massive turrets mounted on asteroids, their barrels slowly rotating as they scanned for any sign of intruders. Mark grinned as he readied his gear.
Time to get to work. I'll disable those turrets, and we'll be in before they even know what hit them.
Sun handed him a series of compact explosives, nodding once.
Silent. Precise.
The shuttle set down on the surface of a large asteroid near the base, the team disembarking in complete silence. John led the way, his plasma blade in hand as they crept toward the first turret. Mark moved with practiced ease, planting explosives at the base of the turret before retreating back to the team.
Fire in 3, 2, 1.
Mark whispered. The explosion was barely audible, a controlled blast that took out the turret's power supply and rendered it useless. The team moved quickly, repeating the process with the other defenses, neutralizing the automated systems one by one. In less than 10 minutes, the pirate base's outer defenses were down.
Turrets offline.
Marta reported, her voice calm but determined.
We've got a clear path to the base. Let's move.
The team advanced toward the base, their movements swift and silent. The pirate stronghold was a sprawling complex built into the asteroid itself, with fortified walls and narrow corridors. Joan's heart raced as they entered the base, knowing that this was where the battle would truly begin. Inside, the team split up, each operative tasked with disabling different parts of the base's infrastructure. Mark and Sun took out the shield generators, while Sarah and Marta worked on disrupting the communication systems to prevent the pirates from calling for reinforcements. John, leading the charge, pushed deeper into the heart of the base, where the pirate leadership was stationed. As John rounded a corner, his instincts kicked in. He raised his plasma blade just in time to deflect a blaster shot. The corridor erupted into chaos as pirate guards poured out of the command center, their weapons firing wildly. John moved like a blur, cutting down the guards with precision as his team followed closely behind.
We're close,
John said over the comms, his voice steady.
Take out the leaders, and the rest of the pirates will scatter.
The team pushed forward, clearing the corridors until they reached the door to the command center. With a quick nod from John, Sarah activated the door's override, and the team stormed inside. The pirate leaders, caught off guard, barely had time to react before John and his team were upon them. Blades flashed, and plasma bolts filled the air as the shadows of the night dismantled the pirate leadership with ruthless efficiency. Within moments, the battle was over, and the command center lay in ruins.
We've done it,
Sarah said, breathing heavily but triumphant.
The base is ours.
John looked around at the fallen pirate leaders, his heart pounding with the rush of victory.
We've cut the head off the snake. Without their leadership, the pirates will fall apart.
The team regrouped, making their way back to the shuttle as explosions rocked the pirate base behind them. They had done it. They had dismantled the pirates, and with them, the Glover family's greatest source of power. As the shuttle lifted off, John looked out at the burning asteroid base, knowing that they had dealt a crippling blow to the rebellion. The mission wasn't over yet, but the tides had turned. They had the upper hand now, and they wouldn't stop until every last traitor was brought to justice. The shuttle sped through the vastness of space, leaving the wreckage of the pirate base far behind. Inside, the atmosphere among the team was calm, but charged with the energy of their recent victory. John sat in silence, watching the stars streak past through the viewport. The adrenaline from the mission still thrummed in his veins, but he couldn't help feeling the weight of everything that had happened in the past weeks. They had uncovered traitors, dismantled a conspiracy, and destroyed the pirates that had been plaguing the Duke's territories. But John knew this was only one battle in a much larger war, a war that still had hidden enemies waiting in the shadows. Sarah, sitting across from John, was reviewing the mission logs on her tablet, her fingers moving with practiced precision. Her expression was as focused as ever, though there was a rare glimmer of satisfaction in her eyes. They had succeeded in crippling the Glover family's power, and Sarah was already thinking about the next step.
We did good work,
Sarah said, breaking the silence.
The Glovers won't recover from this anytime soon. The Duke's position is stronger, and the pirates are in disarray.
John nodded, but his gaze remained distant.
We've won this round, but I can't shake the feeling that it's not over yet. The Glabber still have influence, and they'll find new ways to undermine the Empire.
Sarah studied him for a moment, then closed her tablet and leaned back in her seat.
You're right. They're not going to give up so easily. But that's why we're here, to stop them every time they try.
John turned to face her, a small smile playing on his lips.
Yeah, I guess that's our job. No rest for the shadows, right?
Sarah chuckled softly, her usually stern expression softening.
Exactly. We stay in the shadows, fight the battles no one else can see, and make sure the Empire stays safe.
Their conversation was interrupted by a ping on the shuttle's comm system. Marta's voice came through, her tone light despite the weight of the mission they had just completed.
We're approaching Elvoria's atmosphere. We'll be landing at the Duke's Palace in a few minutes. You'll all have some time to catch your breath, at least until the next crisis hits.
John leaned back in his seat, feeling the shuttle shift as it began its descent. The rest of the team was quiet, each member lost in their own thoughts. Mark was cleaning his weapons, his usual smirk absent as he focused on the task at hand. Sun was already checking over the explosives he'd packed for the next mission, while Selena and Tyrell sat silently, their eyes scanning the horizon. The team was tired, but resolute. They had come out victorious, but there was no time to relax, not fully. There was always another mission, another threat lurking just around the corner. As the shuttle touched down on the palace grounds, the ramp lowered with a soft hiss. John stepped out into the warm Elvorian air, the grandeur of Duke Arkin's palace towering before him. The gardens were lush and vibrant, a stark contrast to the cold and chaotic asteroid field they had just left behind. The Duke himself was waiting at the palace entrance, his expression a mix of relief and gratitude. His daughter, Princess Lana, stood beside him, her regal composure hiding the worry that had been etched in her features for weeks.
John,
Duke Arkin said as John approached, his voice filled with admiration.
Your team has done more than I could ever have asked. You saved my family and my lands. The Empire owes you a great debt.
John gave a respectful nod.
We did what had to be done, Your Grace. The pirates won't trouble you anymore, and the Glabber family's influence is broken, for now.
Lana stepped forward, her eyes meeting John's with a soft smile.
You've kept your promise, John. My father's lands are safe, and we can finally breathe again. I don't know how to thank you.
John smiled in return, his tone light but sincere.
You don't need to thank me, Lana. We're friends, remember? I told you I'd keep you safe, and I meant it.
Her smile widened, but before she could respond, the Duke cleared his throat, stepping forward.
There will be a banquet tonight in honor of your victory. The people need to see that their leaders are strong, and that the threat has been dealt with. I would be honored if you and your team would join us.
John glanced at Sarah, who gave a slight nod of approval.
We'll be there,
John said.
But I'm afraid we won't be able to stay long. There's always more work to be done.
The Duke's expression turned solemn, but he nodded in understanding.
Of course. I know your duties extend beyond my borders, but for tonight, you are our guests. Rest, eat, and celebrate your victory.
That evening, the great hall of the palace was filled with the sound of music and laughter as the banquet unfolded. The long, ornate tables were piled with food, and the wine flowed freely. Nobles from across Elvoria mingled and shared stories of the pirates' defeat. Their fears of the rebellion temporarily eased. John sat at a table near the front, flanked by his team. Sarah remained vigilant, watching the room with a careful eye even as she sipped her drink. Mark, on the other hand, was fully embracing the celebration, already on his second glass of wine, and deep in conversation with Tyrell about the finer points of plasma rifles. Lana sat beside John, her presence a calm counterpoint to the noise and revelry. She leaned in slightly, her voice soft as she spoke.
I've never seen the court like this. It's been so long since we had something to celebrate.
John turned to her, a small smile on his lips.
They deserve it. After everything that's happened, they need this. Some sense of normalcy.
Lana nodded, but her eyes held a seriousness that contrasted with the lightness of the evening.
You're leaving soon, aren't you?
John sighed, his expression growing more thoughtful.
Yeah. We've won this battle, but the war's far from over. The Blubber family is weakened, but they're not done. And there are always more threats waiting in the shadows.
She looked at him for a long moment, her gaze searching.
And what about you, John? How long can you keep doing this, fighting battles in the dark, always on the move?
John paused, caught off guard by the question. He hadn't thought much beyond the next mission, the next threat to the Empire.
I don't know,
he admitted.
But for now, it's what I meant to do. I've made peace with that.
Lana's eyes softened, and she smiled gently.
I hope you find peace outside of the fight someday. You've earned it.
John looked at her, his heart stirred by her words.
Maybe someday,
he said, his voice quiet but sincere. For now, though, the shadows called to him, and he knew he had to answer. The night grew late, and as the banquet came to a close, John and his team prepared to depart. They stood in the palace courtyard, the stars shining brightly overhead, as Duke Arkin and Lana bid them farewell.
May the Empire watch over you,
the Duke said solemnly, offering a respectful bow.
You will always be welcome in Elvoria.
John nodded, shaking the Duke's hand firmly.
Thank you, Your Grace. We'll return if you ever need us.
Lana stepped forward, her gaze lingering on John.
Goodbye, John,
she said softly.
Until we meet again.
John gave her a warm smile, knowing that this wasn't truly goodbye.
Until then, Lana.
As the team boarded their shuttle and the engines roared to life, John felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. The mission had been a success, but as the shuttle lifted off and soared back into the stars, he knew that there would always be more battles to fight, more shadows to hunt. But for now, John allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. They had won, and they had made a difference. And that, he thought, was enough.